And so let's dive right into what's upcoming. You know that I love the big boys flying, and there's a lot of them on this card. So this is going to be the first heavyweight fight that we touch on, but it is between a couple of nice young prospects. We got Sergey Spivak on one end. We got Jared Vanderaa on the other, who we actually touched on again on our prospect video. It seems like everybody from that video is fighting on this card.
Because they all got canceled or something and had to get pushed to this one. So let's see if they're on the March one too.
So, Vanderaa, we did actually have fairly low on the list due to some circumstances, getting canceled fights, all that kind of stuff. But a win against Sergey Spivak would go a long way in him climbing those rankings for sure. Let's touch on Spivak for a little bit. The polar bear comes in with an 11-2 record. Great nickname.
I love it. It's one of my favorites.
So he comes in with an 11-2 record, but he has gone 2-2 in the UFC. We have actually touched on him a few times, but most recently, he had that decision victory against Carlos Felipe in July. Slightly underwhelming fight in that one, but he did get the decision victory there. Prior to that, he had losses against Marcin, Tybura, and Walt, both of which, we have, high immense respect for. And, he did have a win against Tai Tuivasa. So that 2-2 record is a little deceiving, as those are all 4 quality fights. What do you think about the polar bear here?
Well, yeah, it's funny, right? We're seeing how good Felipe is getting at this level. He's actually really improving. We took him in the last fight, and he's starting to finish. He looks really good.
He looked great in that last one, yeah.
And so for me, it's like Spivak's one of those guys where I feel like he's the guy that's letting people know that they need to get better. Like Tuivasa fights him, loses in the second round, I believe, by arm triangle, and then basically goes into AKA with Daniel Cormier and these guys and starts training his wrestling and his grappling, loses a bunch of weight, looks way healthier. So good thing for Spivak is like he's putting himself on notice on the behind closed doors. You know what I mean? He's definitely testing the waters with a lot of good heavyweights, and so I like the chin aspect of it, but I also think that if Vanderaa, he's going to be very old school, right? I feel like if you had to call a man a heavyweight version of Sam Alvey, you're looking at him. This guy's going to try to lay a big punch on you.
That's my boy, Smiling Sam, man.
Yeah, and let's talk, who else is your boy? Hunsucker? Hunsucker was the last one.
Yeah. You knew we had to touch on the Hunsuckers.
Yeah, so why don't you get into your boy Vanderaa and Hunsucker? I mean, that was the last fight that we saw him, right?
Yeah, so, like we said, Vanderaa on that prospect video, really excited to see what he can do. The last fight that we touched on him with his 11-4 record was on that Dana White Contender Series against Henry Hunsucker, where he did lay some Hunsuckers in the first round and got the knockout there.
But that was an interesting fight, right? Because you could also say that we just saw how good Vanderaa's chin was. To say his striking was any good would be a stretch. He was trying to land big shots, but Hunsucker was actually landing the bigger shots. It's just one guy had a much bigger chin. And to be honest, your boy Hunsucker looked like his sucker tank run out. He was just not able to throw.
Yeah, he started out fire, man.
And then just ground and pound, right? Kind of turtled up. And Vanderaa just kind of looked up at the referee. He's like, I can barely throw any more punches, so please end this quickly. and he got a big win, right? So I mean, this is going to be a true test of athleticism now. I think there's going to be a side
especially
aspect.
Given the way Spivak is looking right now, how lean he's looking, that cardio, all that kind of stuff. You better have a gas tank ready for this one.
And the big thing, right? I think if Spivak had something to get better at, it was like if you look at the way he approached those later rounds, he was definitely looking tired. And you look at his Walt Harris loss. I mean, if I'm a heavyweight and I'm getting into a fight with Walt Harris, if it's an MMA fight, I'm trying to do everything under the sun except have a kickboxing match. And you chose to have a kickboxing match. And so I think that's also a lesson, right? Like you kind of learn, let me watch tape on a guy. Let me, Curtis, if you look at the guys that have fought Walt Harris recently, they're kind of exposing that, right? I think the way Overing dealt with him, there was a big reason why we took him at that plus 170. Yeah. He is that technical god at heavyweight, right? When it comes to striking and the groundwork that you kind of get away with against a guy like Walt Harris seems to be pretty good because he does tire himself out in that first round because he does go for such power shots. But our boy Spivak definitely ate some big ones and felt them, right? And that's where I think that's a big lesson for him too, right? Against a guy like Vanderaa, you might want to take a step back, not maybe get into this like grueling punching match, because if for any reason he gets on top of you, I think this is a guy who can wrestle fairly well, and he's going to try and keep you down, and he's going to try and ground and pound you out. That's his style. So you want to avoid that, right?
Yeah, get him tired early and then see where those second and third rounds take you. So let's dive right into the line here. Who do you see being the favorite and by how much?
You got to give it to Spivak, man. I think there's such a technical edge there. I think if this fight gets out of the first round, even the lines are going to look kind of interesting there. My question is, I don't know how big of a favorite to make him. He's the kind of guy, like if Pies asked me, prop bet that I would be looking into, just based on the chin that I've seen and the tiredness from Spivak, even a decision from Spivak. I wonder if that's even close to plus 200. You know what I mean? Like even a line makes me wonder what to really think there. So I'm going to have to go with Spivak at a minus 275. I want to say minus 300, but I'm going to go with minus 275 because I had minus 250 written down. Minus 275.
And that minus 275 gets you right in that 50 point bell range. So, let's give him a round of applause. Hear that bell going. And, he comes in at a minus 225 favorite. So right on the, outskirts of your 50-point range there. We don't have those prop bets yet, but I can imagine that him by decision is going to be very juicy. I do believe that the KOs are going to be pretty favored in this one. And we might actually see some really good value on Spivak to win in the points.
Yeah, so that was kind of the other thing, right? Like I really valued his experience pretty high there when you think about it. So even for you, do you have an idea of where you see Vanderaa kind of having success, even from a betting perspective? If this guy kind of strolls in, closes out at almost a plus 200, he's got good size, he's got the chin. If Spivak's gas tank doesn't last, I'm just wondering, do you see enough? Because that's the one thing that we've been talking about lately, right? It's just especially in public plays, the kind of walk away, even in our home bets. But like these are the kind of fights where you kind of have to judge, is there too much to bank on hypothetically?
And in any heavyweight bout, I think we know that, anything can truly happen. It just takes one punch for this to go either way. Honestly, man, if from what we've seen in the limited, videos we have on Vanderaa and stuff, if he's not winning this in the first, 2 to 3 minutes, I don't see a scenario where he can do enough in the later rounds to win this one. So if there was a scenario where we wanted to sprinkle on Vanderaa, maybe a first round finish would be something to look at. But, if he does get out of that first round, I think this is Spivak's, about to lose.
And I can kind of agree with that. And so that's where I was kind of seeing where you see yourself gauging that minus 225 value, because, frankly, I just see very limited ways for Vanderaa to pull this off unless, because Spivak's takedown defense could be something that comes into play. But I think it looks fairly, it looks like it can compete. I think so.
Yeah, for sure. And in an ideal world, we see Vanderaa come out in the first round gunning and doing his thing and getting tired closer to the end of the round, but winning the round and just getting phenomenal value on Spivak to win rounds 2 and 3.
Especially live, they might eat those that value, but you're right. I think even when we see these kind of extra lines, it'd be interesting what you think. I'll definitely be picking your brain on those.
Yeah, absolutely. So stay tuned for that one, and we'll lock something in a little closer to next Saturday. Safe to say we are pumped for this one. UFC Vegas 19 takes place next Saturday, headlined by our boy, the Black Beast, taking on Curtis Blaydes. We got a bunch of beauty heavyweight fights on that card, so I'm super pumped for it. That wraps it up today. If you haven't already done so, smash that like button, hit that bell button, give us that subscribe, the follow. All our Instagram, Twitter is all there. Any questions, comments you guys have, just send them our way. Anything else, Siraj?
Just be ready. We keep pumping this fight up, but be ready for a 5-round wrestling match where Curtis Blaydes isn't able to finish this man, and Derek Lewis isn't able to get off his back after 3 rounds, and you're just watching a guy get taken down for 5 rounds. So just be ready for that as well.
Yeah. Nice little disclaimer there, my man. Always a pleasure, dude. Take care.
You too, my guy. Take care.